What's cracking, everyone? I'm Venomous Stare, and this is Game 4 of Neeb versus Nerchio. Neeb is currently up 2-1. Nerchio is the Polish Zerg up here in the top right of the classic map, Overgrowth. Neeb is going to be scouting pretty quickly. He pretty much goes gateway expand every game, so I don't expect him to put a forge down in cannon rush, but it would be cool to see. Gateway on the way for Neeb, who is up 2-1 in this best of 5, so all he has to do is win one more game and he can take down the Polish Zerg. And Neeb is going to block the natural here for Nerchio, so Nerchio is going to have to take his third base, which is unfortunate for him. He's also going to gas and then pool, presumably, and get Zergling speed pretty quickly. Neeb's probe has been annoying. Of course, him right-clicking this mineral patch means that Nerchio's workers stop mining it because the AI basically can't mine a mineral patch that's being mined by the enemy. So Nerchio is having to micro his workers a bit here against Neeb. So Neeb has delayed this expansion and messed up Nerchio's mining a bit just with this one probe. This is something that the former EG and Team Liquid player Huck was famous for, was just being an absolute annoyance with this probe. You just scout with this probe early on and then do everything under the sun to piss Zerg off. And that's something we can see Neeb doing here that is extremely useful. And of course he's a very good player, so it's not like he's getting distracted and messing up his macro at home. Oftentimes, if you lower level newbie players try to do this cute probe harassment, you'll see your money balloon up to like 600. So you have to be wary of that. Ling speed is on the way for Nerchio. He has a queen popping at each base. And I expect Nerchio to take this natural pretty damn quickly. Neeb, of course, gets his perfect saturation and then just starts to rally out to the other base. Fixes his probes there, and beautiful. So perfect in the natural. Now he's going to have both of his bases rallied out to start mining these minerals out here. He doesn't even have to worry about allocating them or anything. And he's going to build the Twilight with one of these gas workers. Mothership core finishes for Neeb. And you can always count on Zerg to hide an Overlord up there. Adept is kind of poking around for Neeb, but he doesn't really see anything, and that's because there's really nothing to see. Nerchio isn't doing it all in, you know, there's no Baneling Nest, there's no Evo Chamber, he's just making drones pretty much. Ling speed is about to finish here for Nerchio though, and if we go to income, he's actually losing, although it will be very back and forth. Look at this, he's making 5, so he's about to pull ahead. What is Neeb doing? Well, it appears as though he's going to be going for DT drop. And by DT drop, I really mean Archon drop. This is a build that Neeb likes a lot. Neeb, similar to the American Protoss player Puck, his fellow American, really likes his Warp Prism harass, really likes his micro, as far as hot pickuping the units into the Warp Prism. Warp Prism being chronoed out here for Neeb. And the whole point of this Archon harass, if you're not aware, is A, you can open up DT harass. If you're playing against someone who's really not that good, oftentimes you can do severe damage with the DT being warped into the main. But very good players like Nerchio are not really going to fall for this DT opener. And they'll have spores ready, especially considering Phoenix also warrants spore crawlers in the mineral line, so Zerg really can't go wrong with spores in the mineral line. But even if you don't elect to do the DT harass, what we see Protoss players do is make 2 Archons and load them up in the Warp Prism, and then oftentimes they will be dropped behind the mineral line of Zerg because they are very big, they're very beefy, they have a high amount of hit points, they do splash damage and bonus damage to bio. And Neeb is going to warp in some DTs here, 4 of them, and he's just going to warp them into Archon straight away. And the less room behind the mineral line there is, the better, so there's a lot of room here, a decent amount here, and a decent amount here. On certain maps, there's really just not much mineral line room at all, so you can just park the two Archons and essentially force field them, or use them as force field. We can see Neeb is trying to focus fire the roaches here, but Nerchio is splitting the roaches like a little miniature Zerg Marine King Prime from Poland, because he wanted to minimize the splash damage. So Neeb is going to have to try to commit here with the Archons and do some damage. Yeah, he's going to poke and prod, but with the roaches out, he can trade, but he can't really deal drone damage, which is what he wants. Now more drones are being produced here for Nerchio, and Neeb is in this weird position where he really wants this 2 Archon drop to do damage, but it's hard countered by a lot of roaches and queens. What you're really expecting here with this double Archon drop is to see Zerg players kind of greedily trying to defend with mass Ling, and then oftentimes you can set the Archons up in a premier position and just decimate endless numbers of Lings. But this is a great move by Neeb to bring this Observer out. But Nerchio has yet to lose a worker. And he's at a solid 62. He's taken the gold base. His saturation looks very good. He's getting +1. And again, Neeb is kind of harassing here, and the micro's solid. Nice pickups there by Neeb. But at the same time, Nerchio's losing what? A handful of roaches? He doesn't really give a shit about roaches. Meanwhile, Neeb is just trying to get some immortals, get some charge, and +1 as well as extra gates. And Neeb is in this weird position where he's kind of going tit for tat with Zerg. Oftentimes whenever you see Protoss do this opening, they really want the Archons to do damage, and they're really relying on the Archons to kill about 10 workers to get where they want to be in the mid game. And Neeb is someone who's very good at this Archon micro with the Warp Prism, and he's someone who has the multitask to kill a lot of drones. So to be in a position where he hasn't actually killed a lot of drones is a bit weird. And again, his harass is deflected. One great thing Neeb did was pull his Observer over and killed his creep spread. Notice Nerchio's having to reallocate queens to continue that creep spread. 13 Hydras on the way for Nerchio. And again, we see Neeb is not going to tech into Colossus. He's going to tech into Storm. And he has yet to take a 4th base. But the Storm in this game is a little bit late, just like it was in Game 1. So I think if Nerchio does a huge mid-game attack here, he could do some damage here. And the double Archon harass again. Pokes and prods, but doesn't get a lot done. It'll pick off an Ovi here, as Ovis are easy pickings. Nerchio is kind of looking around by this 3rd base. He sees the 3rd. He's aware of it if he wants to attack. Now Storm is about to finish. It is being diligently chronoed, so if Nerchio wanted to hit a little timing before Storm, he's kind of missed his window. If we go to units, we see that the Warp Prism just died, and 2 Archons are out, judging by 10 and 12 kills. Just like the first game, I believe it was, we see that the Warp Prism that was carrying the double Archon drop did die, but it wasn't carrying the Archons. Stargate on the way here for Neeb, but he's going to press out. Nerchio is maxed. He has a huge supply advantage. And Storm coming down here, of course. Hydras are very vulnerable to Storm, but the army is being flanked here for Neeb. And Neeb is having to throw some Storms down. And Nerchio is tangoing here with Neeb, but he's out of Storm as the Protoss player. And suddenly Neeb's supply is just plummeting. And he's down to pure Immortal here, which are actually terrible against Hydras, guys. And Photon Overcharge is going to start here. The Changelings are out at this point, and Neeb's supply is so low. Hydroling is the choice for Nerchio, and I think Nerchio is just going to win here outright, because Hydroling destroys Immortal Gateway units, and because Kaidarian Amulet doesn't exist in this game anymore, Neeb can't warp in Templar with the energy to Storm. Of course, he has a couple Storm, as he warped in this Templar a bit ago, but they had to be the most insane Storms ever, and they're solid. Those are some Michael Young level Storms, but Nerchio has so much supply coming across the map. So much red, and at this point Immortals can't really trade that well against Hydras. Hydras are light units, not armored, and Neeb GG, so it's going to go to a 5th and final game as we saw Nerchio win the final engagement there beautifully. So whoever wins the final game will win the series. You do not want to miss that, guys. It's going to be excellent. You have to subscribe and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss the final game, and like and favorite the video as well.